Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly attract success while others struggle despite working just as hard? What if I told you that an ancient biblical principle holds the key to unlocking wealth, fulfilling relationships, and extraordinary achievement in every area of your life? Are you ready to discover the secret that transformed an ordinary farm boy into America's most influential success philosopher? A secret so powerful yet so simple that it's been hiding in plain sight for thousands of years. Today, we're diving into the revolutionary wisdom of Jim Rohn and the biblical principle that changed everything for him and could change everything for you. This isn't just another motivational talk. This is about the fundamental law that governs all achievement, a principle so unwavering that Jim Rohn built his entire philosophy around it. You will always, inevitably, harvest exactly what you plant. Imagine having complete control over your future results. Imagine knowing with absolute certainty that your efforts today are creating your reality tomorrow. What would you do differently? How would you live if you truly understood that every thought, every action, every habit is a seed with the power to transform your destiny? The answer to these questions could be worth millions to you in dollars, relationships, and life satisfaction. Are you ready to discover what Jim Rohn knew that most people never will? Emmanuel James. Jim Rohn was born in Yakima, Washington, on September 17, 1930, to a hard-working farm family. His humble beginnings would later inform his philosophy about the value of diligence and perseverance. After dropping out of college after just 1 year, Rohn began his professional journey as a department store clerk. By age 25, he was struggling financially, unable to see a path forward. His life transformed when he met his mentor, entrepreneur, John Earl Schoaf, who introduced him to personal development concepts that would change his trajectory forever. Within 6 years, Rohn had become a millionaire through direct sales, but his true calling emerged when he began sharing his philosophy through seminars and speeches. What distinguished Rohn was his extraordinary ability to communicate complex ideas with simplicity and impact. His soft-spoken, unassuming style belied the power of his message. Unlike many motivational speakers who relied on temporary emotional highs, Rohn offered substantive principles that produced lasting change. His influence extends through generations of thought leaders, including Tony Robbins, Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield, and countless others who consider him their mentor. Until his passing in 2009, Rohn remained dedicated to the idea that success is something you attract by the person you become. Ready to transform your life with timeless wisdom? Subscribe to our channel now for weekly insights inspired by Jim Rohn and other personal development masters. Click the subscribe button below and join our community of growth-minded individuals. The principle of sowing and reaping stands as one of the most foundational teachings across Judeo-Christian scripture. While most explicitly stated in Galatians 6:7-8, "Do not be deceived, God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." This concept appears throughout both Old and New Testaments. In its original context, this teaching served multiple purposes: as practical agricultural wisdom in an agrarian society, as a moral framework for understanding consequences, and as a spiritual principle regarding divine justice. The ancient Hebrews understood this concept intimately through their agricultural experience. They recognized that the quality of seeds, the timing of planting, the care given to growing crops, and patience during development all directly influenced their harvest. This natural law became a powerful metaphor that extended beyond farming into all aspects of life. In Jewish and early Christian understanding, this principle wasn't simply about immediate consequences, but about the natural order established by God, a system where actions inevitably produce corresponding results. What makes this principle so enduring is its observable truth across cultures and time periods. Every agricultural civilization independently discovered this same pattern, that outcomes are directly tied to inputs. The brilliance of biblical teaching was in extending this observable natural law into the moral, ethical, and spiritual dimensions of human experience, It established a framework where personal responsibility becomes paramount, as each person participates in creating their future through present actions. This ancient wisdom formed the perfect foundation for Jim Rohn's modern philosophy of personal development. Jim Rohn's genius lay in his ability to extract this ancient principle from its purely religious context and apply it as a universal law of achievement accessible to everyone, regardless of faith background. Success is neither magical nor mysterious, Rohn would often say. Success is the natural consequence of consistently applying basic fundamentals. This statement perfectly encapsulates his secular reframing of sowing and reaping, positioning it as a natural law rather than strictly divine judgment. Rohn's interpretation centered on what he called the law of cause and effect, emphasizing that our daily choices and actions function as seeds that inevitably yield corresponding harvests in our lives. "Don't wish it was easier," he famously stated. "Wish you were better. Don't wish for fewer problems, wish for more, and skills. Don't wish for less challenge, wish for more wisdom." This perspective placed the power firmly in the hands of the individual. Unlike some prosperity teachings that emphasized divine blessing alone, Rohn's philosophy balanced spiritual principles with personal responsibility. What distinguished Rohn's teaching was his emphasis on the compound effect of small, consistent actions. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines, practiced every day, he taught. This insight transformed the biblical principle into a practical formula for success. He observed that most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, but drastically underestimate what they can achieve in a decade of consistent, intentional growth. Through countless seminars across America, Rohn helped people understand that extraordinary lives don't emerge from single, dramatic actions, but from ordinary disciplines maintained over time. The harvest of success, he taught, was available to anyone willing to plant the right seeds with patience and consistency. Transform your life through the power of daily disciplines. If you've been inspired by Jim Rohn's reinterpretation of sowing and reaping, subscribe now to receive our exclusive content on implementing these principles in modern American life. Hit subscribe and join thousands who are already reaping the rewards of these timeless teachings. Jim Rohn recognized that truly successful lives required attention to multiple dimensions, not just financial prosperity. He identified 5 crucial territories where the principle of sowing and reaping manifests most powerfully in American life. In the financial realm, Rohn taught that wealth creation begins with how we think about money. Profits are better than wages, he observed. Wages make you a living, profits make you a fortune. He encouraged Americans to save at least 10% of their income, invest wisely, and develop multiple income streams, planting seeds that would grow into financial independence. In relationships, Rohn emphasized quality over quantity. "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with," became one of his most quoted insights. He taught that meaningful connections require genuine investment, listening attentively, giving generously, and approaching relationships with integrity. The harvest of strong relationships, he noted, often arrived when most needed during life's inevitable challenges. Regarding health and well-being, Rohn was equally practical. Long before wellness became a cultural focus, he advocated for treating the body as a precious asset. "Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live," he would remind audiences. Simple disciplines like regular exercise, proper nutrition, and adequate rest were seeds that yielded energy, longevity, and quality of life. Perhaps most distinctive was Rohn's emphasis on intellectual development. "Formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune," he stated. In a distinctly American tradition of self-improvement, he advocated reading widely, attending seminars, and seeking mentorship. He recommended reading at least 30 minutes daily, noting that this discipline alone could transform a person's thinking within years. Finally, Rohn addressed spiritual growth, not through dogmatic religious prescription, but through encouraging values development, gratitude practices, and philosophical reflection. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, he advised, recognizing that internal growth inevitably produces external results across all areas of life. One of Jim Rohn's most valuable contributions to American success philosophy was his honest treatment of timing in the sowing and reaping process. Unlike get-rich-quick promoters, Rohn acknowledged the natural delay between planting and harvesting. Patience is not merely the ability to wait, he taught. It's how we behave while we're waiting. This insight addressed the fundamental challenge that causes many Americans to abandon positive habits before seeing results, the invisible early growth happening beneath the surface. Rohn often illustrated this principle through the seasons of agriculture familiar to his Midwestern audiences. Don't be impatient with new beginnings, he cautioned. Drive the weeds out when they first appear. Take care of small problems before they become big problems. He understood that early in any growth process, whether building a business, developing a skill, or improving a relationship, progress often remains invisible to outside observers. This period requires what he called faith in the seasons, trust in natural processes that unfold according to their own timeline rather than our preferences. What separated Rohn from many contemporary success teachers was his emphasis on delayed gratification as a cornerstone of achievement. Success is not to be pursued. It is to be attracted by the person you become, he insisted. This perspective reframes the waiting period not as wasted time, but as essential developmental space where character forms. The most valuable harvests, Rohn taught, often require the longest growing seasons. His teachings encouraged Americans to adopt long-term thinking in a culture increasingly focused on immediate results, reminding them that the most valuable achievements often come to those patient enough to nurture growth through multiple seasons. Are you ready to master the art of patience in your personal growth journey? Subscribe now to receive our exclusive content on developing the mindset that leads to lasting success. Join our community today and learn how to transform waiting periods into powerful seasons of preparation. The brilliance of Jim Rohn's teaching lies in its practicality. He transformed abstract principles into concrete daily practices accessible to Americans from all walks of life. Central to his approach was the power of setting clear, measurable goals, what he called planting seeds, with intention. Rohn advised writing specific objectives in major life areas, reviewing them daily, and breaking them down into actionable steps. This practice creates what he termed a pulling power that moves individuals toward their desired future. Financial. Application begins with Rohn's famous 70-30 rule, living on 70% of income, while allocating 10% to charitable giving, 10% to active capital, investments, and 10% to passive capital, savings. This simple formula has helped countless Americans establish financial stability regardless of income level. In relationships, Rohn recommended daily investments like expressing gratitude, active listening, and what he called going the extra mile, doing more than expected for others without immediate expectation of return. These small seeds consistently planted yield rich harvests of deeper connections. For personal development, Rohn created the 5 for 5 formula, reading just 5 pages of a growth-oriented book daily and spending 5 minutes in reflection. Over time, this modest investment compounds dramatically into greater wisdom and perspective. He similarly advocated small, sustainable improvements in health rather than dramatic but unsustainable changes. Start with wherever you are, he advised, and do what you can. Perhaps most powerfully, Rohn taught the practice of maintaining a personal journal, recording insights, progress, and lessons learned. This habit creates what he called a conversation with yourself that accelerates growth by making unconscious patterns visible. Through these practical applications, Rohn demonstrated that extraordinary results come not from occasional heroic efforts, but from simple disciplines practiced consistently. While Jim Rohn's interpretation of sowing and reaping offers powerful wisdom, honest examination requires acknowledging its limitations and potential misapplications in American culture. Critics note that an overemphasis on individual effort can sometimes minimize structural barriers that genuinely limit opportunity. Rohn's philosophy emerged during America's post-war economic boom when upward mobility seemed more universally accessible. In today's more complex economy, factors like systemic inequities, access to education, and starting economic position significantly impact one's ability to reap, regardless of how diligently they sow. The principle also faces challenges in contexts where cause and effect relationships aren't straightforward. Some individuals faithfully apply Rohn's teachings, yet face setbacks due to factors beyond their control, health crises, economic downturns, or family emergencies that disrupt even the most disciplined efforts. Without nuanced application, the principle risks implying that all suffering results from poor choices, potentially breeding judgment rather than compassion. Additionally, some critics observe that American culture's individualistic interpretation can neglect the communal dimensions present in the original biblical teaching, which emphasized sowing into community as much as personal advancement. Perhaps most importantly, Rohn himself acknowledged the principle's mysterious exceptions. Not every seed takes root, he would admit, recognizing that even with perfect application, outcomes sometimes differ from expectations. The wisdom lies in continuing to plant good seeds despite occasional disappointing harvests. These limitations don't invalidate the principle, but invite a more sophisticated application, one that balances personal responsibility with realistic expectations and compassion for oneself and others when results don't match effort. The most mature practitioners of Rohn's philosophy embrace both its empowering truth and its necessary qualifications. Jim Rohn's greatest contribution to American personal development may be his ability to bridge ancient wisdom with modern application, creating a philosophy that transcends both religious and secular boundaries. The principle of sowing and reaping in Rohn's hands becomes not merely a spiritual truth, but a practical framework for navigating life's complexities with intention and wisdom. Your life, he often said, does not get better by chance, it gets better by change. This simple statement encapsulates the heart of his message, that we participate actively in creating our future through present choices. Perhaps what makes Rohn's interpretation so enduring is its balanced perspective. Unlike purely materialistic, success philosophies that focus exclusively on external results, Rohn emphasized character development as the foundation for lasting achievement. Success is not something you pursue, he insisted. It's something you attract by the person you become. This insight shifts focus from merely acquiring possessions to developing qualities, discipline, integrity, wisdom, and service that naturally attract opportunity and growth. As we navigate an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world, the timeless wisdom of sowing and reaping offers a stabilizing perspective. It reminds us that despite technological and cultural shifts, certain principles remain constant. Small, consistent actions compound over time. Quality input produces quality output. Patience and persistence yield results that quick fixes cannot. Character matters more than technique. These truths, illuminated by Rohn's unique ability to communicate with both simplicity and depth, continue to guide seekers of personal growth, decades after he first shared them. His legacy invites each of us to examine what seeds we're planting today, and to cultivate the patience and discipline needed to nurture them to full harvest.